let's talk about some use cases and how we have used AI and things. So the first use case is using AI for data discovery, data analysis, right? And this is something that I think most businesses can relate to because businesses sit on tons of data. And for most businesses, the problem is not that it doesn't exist. The problem is making sense of that data, right? But with AI, you can feed that data to a system, to a model, and through those patterns, it can give you information that makes sense. With AI, you can use natural language to ask questions of that data. And through that, you can find growth pockets. You can find businesses that are actually ripe for expanding your product offering with. You can find businesses that are at risk of churning because you have fed them businesses on your platform. I'm sorry, I'm using businesses because I work as a business-to-business company, but let's say customers, right? You can feed them data of these are the customers that have churned in the last 3 months and have that AI system look at your entire customer base and see if there are similar signals with some businesses that are still on your platform so that you can go ahead of that and stop them from churning. So with AI, you're able to act faster, generate more revenue, lower the cost to serve the customers, and keep happy customers. So here is how we did it at Paystack. So Data Paddy is an amazing Slack bot that our data team built together with our engineering team to allow the rest of us to ask questions to our data. So I'll give like a bit of background here. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Metabase, but Metabase is a platform that you can connect your database to, and it gives you an interface to ask questions, allows you to create dashboards, and so on. But the problem was that you needed to know SQL, which is structured query language that we use to talk to databases. And not everybody's a programmer or a data scientist, so it was always a problem where the data team was being asked, can you create a query to help me find so and so information? Now, with Data Paddy, what the team did is that they created a system that was fed with a lot of context on Paystack data. So it knows what we consider a good success rate. It knows what a fraud ratio is, right? And this is something that ideally, if you're just to go and ask ChatGPT, yes, it can write a query for you, but it will not write it in the context of what we need because it doesn't have that information. And what they did behind the scenes is give ChatGPT that context, connect it with Slack's API, conversational AI, and you can go and say something like this: who are the merchants with 50% decline? And I can't show you the results because it's real merchant data, but it will literally, within less than a minute, go through our data, either give me a list, or it will give me an SQL query that I can then go and run on Metabase and get the information I need. Now, here are some interesting ways that I've seen people use this at Paystack. Okay, before I go there, sorry. So, business value for this, like I mentioned, you don't need to ask experts. You have the ability to find the data yourself, which then frees our data team to work on actually interesting problems. Generates SQL queries for us and converts it from one form to the other if you wanted to. Another thing that I find that is pretty cool is that you can ask it for information, and instead of it just giving you the query, it will tell you that somebody has created a dashboard that gives you that information. So you can go and there's a dashboard. Maybe you want to find out something about refunds, and there's already a dashboard that's been created by the data team where you can see so much information about refunds and much more, right? And again, it democratizes data expertise. So use cases. I've seen the customer support team, a business maybe has gone to the Paystack dashboard and they're trying to export, and maybe their data is just too large that the request is timing out. And the customer support team is able to just go ask Data Paddy, can you give me this information for this merchant? And define the parameters and get it, right? I've seen a product manager ask it to translate an SQL query he had to a Redshift version. So Redshift is another database. And we got that in seconds. Like I was in the office when this was happening, and he was like literally screaming because he came back from sabbatical and found this bot, and like to him it has changed his life. I've seen the revenue team ask data party to identify merchants whose revenue is declining, so that they can reach out proactively and find out what's happening. Typically, those will happen much later, maybe when the merchant has left completely, but then now we're able to see patterns quicker. I've seen the revenue team again upload a list of businesses on a spreadsheet and say which of these businesses are not on the Paysack platform, so that they will know where to concentrate their efforts. Right? So again, this is an example of how with AI, they're able to do much more, even with the same team size with us. Alright, so let's move to another use case. Using AI for automating routine tasks. Now, I'm sure all of us can relate to tasks that are absolutely necessary for you to do, but they're just endless. You have to do them every day, every week. It takes a lot of your time. It doesn't really add to your knowledge, but you need to share that or do that every time. For me, it's a report. Like there are certain projects we're working on that have to give regular reports, and it's just a thing, right? And AI can help with automating this simple repetitive task, saving you a lot of time and effort. And of course, just like with the data pipeline example, you now have more time to work on rewarding high impact tasks, right? So automating routine tasks, you get faster resolutions, again, lower costs to serve your customers, and again, leading to happier customers. So let me give another example, which is Deal Autopsy, which was a tool created by a colleague of mine, Anyanwu, on the revenue operations team. And basically what this tool does is it creates a very comprehensive document on whatever business you want it to. And how it does this is, again, using the power of OpenAI's APIs, it's able to pull context from Slack, from emails, from notes on Notion, from notes on Pipedrive, and consolidate it into one report for the team. So maybe Shola, our CEO, wants to know what's happening with the MTN deal. That is something that if you had not done ahead of time, you'd be panicking, right? But also you have so much that you're doing. But with Deal Autopsy specifically, within 5 minutes, someone on the team is able to generate a very comprehensive report that goes really in depth, even up to next, even giving you suggestions of what you can do next, based on the context of the information it has pulled. Now, the business value for something like this, is immense. Very comprehensive reports because they are pulling from as many resources as possible, and that's happening automatically. To be honest, like if I'm doing that myself, they'll give one or two things that I might miss out on. But because everything is already put together, it's pulling that information, and then all you have to do is like refine it. Now remember what I said in the beginning. The use of AI, personally, I don't think it's about relying on it to do all the work and then you move on. It's about enhancing your work. So you're working hand in hand. You have a sense of what you want it to do, and you're giving it the parameters to do so. And then you are also reviewing it to see that it has done what it's meant to do, and you're also adding the context that you only have because of your experience, right? Again, saves you time because it's giving you quick reviews, giving you what are the next steps you can carry on, what are the aggregates. Again, arranging everything that will have taken you hours and hours of time. Now, this is the tool I'm talking about is the tool that we just started using. But with a tool like that will allow you to pull context from different tools that you're connected to, the possibilities are endless. We can set it to look at specific Slack channels because we have Slack channels. We Slack heavily at Paysack, and we also use Slack not just within Paysack, but also to communicate with some of our merchants, right? So for some of those channels, your biggest merchants, it can pull in information and give you a recap weekly on what is happening, right? Or extending that can connect it to any system that I really communicate, whether it's email and so on, get a sense of like what are the feature requests that people are talking about? What are the things that seem to be a point of confusion for people? Again, pull out signals for you to improve your product or your service. Again, support, extend it, whether it's like front or SMS or whatever, you can connect it as well. Pull out the things because it's pattern recognition, right? And again, if they're able to generate such a comprehensive document, you can ask the questions and you can pull out the answers from the same pool of knowledge that is generating that document from. Now, to the last one, so far I've been talking about custom integrations, but let's bring it to something that is much simpler, your everyday tools. Now, I felt it was very important to talk about this because for some people, there's still like this sort of stigma around using AI. And I'm hoping that by the time you go through this, the stigma is no longer there or it's not as strong. And it's using your everyday tools that have AI components. Now, I know that there are tools that have AI and it's just annoying, like why does it have AI? But there's some tools that it does have AI and I'm happy it does. For example, Zoom Companion. I'm somebody that likes to take notes when I'm in a meeting. But sometimes I get so into the meeting that I lose track of what's happening, right? And I have something in the background that is taking meeting notes that will point out all the points that I wouldn't have gotten by myself. And then when I'm compiling the final notes, I have two sources to pick from. These are like my own thoughts as the ones I was able to take. And then here is a comprehensive summary of what happened for me to pull from again. So ChatGPT style assistant, you can use it to do like the bare bones skeleton of what you want to do and then build upon it. You can use it to summarize, to rewrite. If you're a programmer, you know Copilot is like really, really, really helpful. You can use, even if you're not using it to write your code, you can use it to write your PRs, your commit messages. I use ChatGPT a lot to figure out where my errors are. And sometimes it's just something so obvious, but because like I'm using something that is using pattern recognition, it's able to pull it out. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the very important thing is that you work with guardrails. The point, at least at this point that AI is at, the point is not that you just tell it what to do and you go your merry way. The first thing is that know exactly the kind of outputs. But even when you're brainstorming, you know where you want to as much as possible with your prompts. And by prompts, I mean the instructions you're entering into the chat box. Right? Test. Honestly, like test a lot. Because depending on how exact your query is, what you could get might be very close to what you want, but not exactly what you want. But by testing and seeing what you've gotten, you can nudge it in the right direction. Right, and then allows you to work faster, reiterate, and build and ship faster. So a business model for this, obviously, increase productivity, which I've spoken about in the previous examples. But one again that people might not know is standards and consistency. If you're able to define standards, this is how I write, or this is how I write my report, or this is how we write code, then you can pass subsequent work through that template that you have set, and you can see where you are falling short, where you need to improve. Again, faster time to market because you're able to reiterate quickly, you're able to improve much more quicker, and onboarding and knowledge retention because now you've fed your information to the system. New people who, I don't know, all of us have had the experience of joining a company and you know how it can be very scary finding the answers you need. When you have a system that's already trained with context, then your new employees, people who have switched to new roles, new positions, they have somewhere to go to get the answer from. Alright, so I'm gonna stop here and I will leave room for any questions.